Chosen one, the forbidden knowledge inside you has been hunted, silenced, and buried for centuries, but you carried it without even knowing. That's why your very presence shatters illusions. This is not entertainment. This is your awakening alarm. Right now, in this exact moment, heaven is no longer whispering, it's roaring your name. You didn't stumble onto this message. You were led here by forces that have been orchestrating your entire life story. You are a hidden scroll walking in human form, and they've been trying to keep you from reading yourself. Every rejection you've faced, every time they called you too much or too deep, every door that slammed in your face when you were just being authentic, that wasn't punishment, beloved. That was proof. Proof that you carry something they cannot control, cannot replicate, cannot silence. You've been asking heaven for a sign. This is it. The same people who dismissed you have been studying you in secret. They've been watching how you move through betrayal without breaking, how you see through their masks without even trying, how you carry light in rooms full of shadows. They fear you because you remind them of what they buried inside themselves. If you feel this piercing your soul right now, if something ancient is stirring in your chest, comment 777 below. Don't just watch, activate. Let every chosen one know we are rising together. Your comment isn't just interaction, it's declaration. To everyone who supported this message through prayer, presence, or giving, you're not just helping a channel, you're helping heaven reach someone drowning in the dark. Your generosity is sacred seed. Thank you. Chosen one, you've spent your whole life wondering why you feel so different, why conversations drain you, why you see patterns others miss, why your silence makes people uncomfortable. The answer is about to shatter everything you thought you knew about yourself. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are the disruption they never saw coming. Now breathe deep, stay close, because what you're about to discover has the power to rewrite not just your story, but the stories of everyone you touch. This is your scroll unrolling. This is your code activating. This is the forbidden knowledge they prayed you'd never remember. Let's begin. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the spiritual temperature shift before anyone even spoke? Have you ever looked at someone's smile and immediately knew it was hiding a lie? Have you ever wondered why your soul feels decades older than your body? Chosen one, that's not intuition. That's recognition. That's your spirit remembering what the world tried to make you forget. You've carried something your entire life that others spend lifetimes searching for. While they chase wisdom in books, degrees, and institutions, you were born with an ancient knowing already burning in your chest. This isn't knowledge you learned. This is knowledge you remembered. The prophet Jeremiah heard God say, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This wasn't just spoken over a biblical prophet. This was spoken over you. You didn't arrive here randomly. You were placed here with purpose, with power, with a sacred assignment encoded in your very DNA. But here's what they never told you about carrying forbidden knowledge. It makes you dangerous to the comfortable. It makes you a threat to the sleeping. That's why you've never fit in. That's why every time you speak truth, rooms get quiet. That's why people either run toward your light or flee from it like it burns them. Your mind is a living scroll. Your heart is a divine compass. While others navigate by trends and opinions, you move by revelation. While they follow crowds, you follow the ancient pull of something eternal, and that terrifies them. Think about your life for a moment. How many times have you known something was wrong before it went wrong? How many times have you sensed deception in someone's words while everyone else believed the lie? How many times have you felt the spiritual weight of a decision before anyone understood its significance? That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. You see through illusions because your spirit was never programmed to accept them. But let me tell you something that's going to shake you. The same people who called you paranoid for seeing patterns have been watching those patterns play out exactly as you predicted. The same ones who said you were too sensitive are now drowning in the chaos you saw coming. The same voices that told you to stop overthinking are now begging for the clarity you carry naturally. You've lived decades wondering why you felt like a stranger in your own generation, why conversations about nothing exhausted you, why you could feel people's real intentions underneath their words, why you saw through the masks everyone else accepted as faces. Now you know. It was never meant for you to fit into their illusion. You were designed to disrupt it. This forbidden knowledge you carry isn't just personal insight, it's prophetic intelligence. You don't just see what is, you see what's coming. You don't just feel what people say, you feel what they mean. You don't just observe situations, you decode their spiritual significance. That's why your presence alone makes people confess things they never intended to share. That's why your silence speaks louder than their noise. That's why your questions cut deeper than their answers. You are a walking revelation in a world addicted to deception. And that makes you more than dangerous. It makes you essential. Every time someone tried to dim your light, they were really trying to protect their darkness. Every time they called you too much, they were really saying you were too real for their comfort. Every door they slammed in your face wasn't rejection, it was redirection. You've been asking God why your path has been so isolated, so misunderstood, so difficult. Here's your answer. Because ordinary missions don't require extraordinary preparation. And beloved, there is nothing ordinary about what heaven has planned for you. The weight you've been carrying isn't a burden, it's building spiritual muscle. The loneliness you've endured isn't abandonment, it's sacred positioning. The knowledge you've been given isn't for entertainment, it's for transformation. You were never meant to use this gift for applause. You were meant to use it for awakening, not to impress the sleeping, but to disturb their slumber, not to join their comfortable lies, but to shatter them with uncomfortable truth. And right now, as you listen to these words, something ancient is stirring in your spirit. That's not emotion, that's recognition. Your soul is remembering what your mind was trained to forget. You are not behind schedule. You are not too late. You are not forgotten. You have been held in reserve for such a time as this. While others were learning to blend in, you were being prepared to stand out. While they were being trained to follow, you were being equipped to lead. The forbidden knowledge inside you isn't just about what you know, it's about what you carry. It's about the frequency you emit just by existing. It's about the way your presence alone forces people to choose between their comfort and their conscience. Stay with me, chosen one, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal why every betrayal you faced, every door that's been slammed in your face, every moment you felt abandoned wasn't destruction. It was divine positioning. And what's about to be revealed to you will change not just how you see your past, but how you step into your future. Because the same forces that tried to silence you are about to discover why heaven never intended for you to stay quiet. Chosen one, let me tell you why your life has felt like swimming upstream in a world gone mad. You've been living in the greatest illusion ever constructed, a matrix of lies so sophisticated, so beautifully packaged, that 99% of humanity never even questions it. But you see right through it, and that's exactly why they're terrified of you. Listen closely. The media feeds you fear for breakfast, division for lunch, and hopelessness for dinner. Politics promises change while delivering chains. Even religion, shallow, powerless religion, offers you comfort instead of transformation, entertainment instead of encounter with the living God. But your spirit rejects it all, doesn't it? You watch the news, and something in your gut screams lie. You sit in churches and feel spiritually starved. You hear politicians speak, and your soul recognizes the manipulation before your mind can even process it. That's not cynicism, beloved. That's spiritual sight. The natural person does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are folly to him, and he is not able to understand them because they are spiritually discerned. 1 Corinthians 2:14. You were born with X-ray vision in a world wearing masks. Think about this for a moment. Why do people either love you intensely or fear you instinctively? Why is there rarely neutral ground when it comes to your presence? Because you walk into every room like a lion entering a sheepfold, and the illusion trembles. Your very existence is a threat to their carefully constructed reality. When you speak truth, you're not offering opinions. You're delivering earthquakes. When you question systems, you're not being difficult. You're being dangerous to deception. When you refuse to play along with the charade, you're not antisocial. You're anti-illusion. And illusion cannot survive authentic truth. History proves this pattern. Galileo dared to say the Earth wasn't the center of the universe. The religious establishment didn't just disagree with him, they silenced him, imprisoned him, called him a heretic. Why? Because his truth shattered their control. His clarity threatened their monopoly on reality. But Galileo wasn't wrong. He was early, just like you. Harriet Tubman had visions, literal divine downloads, that showed her safe paths through enemy territory. The world called her crazy. Slave owners put bounties on her head. Even some slaves thought she was delusional. But she led 300 souls to freedom because she trusted her spiritual sight over society's blindness. She didn't follow maps. She followed revelation. Sound familiar, chosen one? You've been living your whole life trusting an inner compass that others can't see, hearing frequencies they can't detect, sensing danger in situations that look perfectly safe to everyone else. They called you paranoid. They said you were overthinking. They told you to relax, go with the flow, stop being so intense. But every time you ignored that inner voice, you got burned, didn't you? Every time you doubted your discernment, the very thing you sensed came to pass. Every time you talked yourself out of what your spirit was screaming, you paid the price. That's because your clarity isn't arrogance, it's alignment. You're tuned into a frequency that broadcasts truth 24/7. While others are scrolling through lies, you're downloading revelation. But when He, the Spirit of Truth, comes, He will guide you into all the truth. John 16:13. The Spirit of Truth isn't just guiding you, He's speaking through you. That's why your words cut so deep. That's why your presence disrupts atmospheres. That's why people feel exposed around you, even when you haven't said a word. You're not just observing the illusion, you're dismantling it by existing. But here's what the enemy never anticipated. The harder they fight to keep you deceived, the clearer your vision becomes. Every attack sharpens your discernment. Every lie they tell only makes their truth more obvious. Every mask they wear becomes more transparent in your presence. You were built to see through smoke and mirrors. You were designed to detect counterfeit from authentic. You were wired to recognize the difference between religious performance and divine power. That's why shallow conversations drain you. That's why fake people exhaust you. That's why systems built on deception make your spirit revolt. You're allergic to anything that isn't real, and in a world addicted to illusion, that makes you a walking antidote. Think about the people who love you most. What do they say about you? You always know. You see things others miss. You called it before it happened. That's not luck, beloved. That's spiritual sight operating at maximum capacity. Now think about the people who fear you most. What do they accuse you of? Being too deep, too intense, too questioning, too spiritual, too awake. They're not wrong. You are too much for their comfort zone. because comfort zones built on lies can't handle the weight of truth. Jesus said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." John 8:32. But he didn't say it would make you popular. He didn't promise it would make you comfortable. Truth is a sword, not a pillow. And you, chosen one, were born holding that sword. Your sight pierces veils others don't even know exist. Your questions expose foundations others thought were solid. Your discernment reveals agendas others never suspected. That's not a burden to carry lightly. That's a weapon to wield wisely. So the question becomes, what will you do with this sight? Will you keep it to yourself to avoid the discomfort of standing out? Will you dim it down to make others feel better about their blindness? Or will you finally accept that your clarity is not an accident, it's an assignment? Chosen one, let me tell you something they never wanted you to discover. Every label they've pinned on you, arrogant, bitter, unstable, too intense, those aren't descriptions. They're deflections. They're desperate attempts to explain away something they can't control, can't understand, and can't replicate. You see, when someone carries the kind of discernment you do, when someone walks with the clarity you possess, it creates a problem for those living in illusion. Your very existence becomes their mirror, and nobody likes looking into a mirror they didn't ask for. They fear your discernment because it exposes their deception. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time someone got genuinely angry at you, not for what you did, but for what you saw? When did someone last attack your character because you questioned their narrative? That wasn't about you being difficult. That was about you being dangerous to their carefully constructed lies. The systems of this world, corporate, social, even religious, they all operate on one fundamental principle: conformity equals survival. Fall in line, don't ask hard questions, accept the surface story, and you'll be rewarded with acceptance, promotion, inclusion. But clarity? Clarity gets you labeled a troublemaker. Jesus himself warned us about this in John 8:32. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. But here's what they don't tell you. That same truth that sets you free will make others feel imprisoned by their own deceptions, and they'll hate you for it. You've experienced this, haven't you? Walking into a room and immediately sensing the tension nobody's talking about. Watching people perform relationships instead of living them. Seeing through the masks people wear so effortlessly that you wonder if you're the only one who notices. And when you dare to mention what you see, even gently, suddenly, you're the problem. They call you paranoid when you sense deception. They label you negative when you refuse to pretend everything's fine. They say you're overthinking when you're actually seeing clearly. But here's the truth that'll set your soul on fire. You're not overthinking. You're not paranoid. You're not negative. You're awake in a world that profits from sleep. The system rewards those who see nothing, question nothing, and challenge nothing. It punishes those who pierce veils, expose contradictions, and refuse to play along with collective delusions. That's why your life has felt like swimming upstream. That's why doors have closed when your character was pristine. That's why opportunities disappeared when your integrity was unquestionable. They don't reject you because you're lacking. They reject you because you're illuminating. You are a mirror they didn't ask for but can't look away from. Every time they're around you, something inside them stirs their buried conscience, their abandoned dreams, their compromised values. You remind them of who they were before they learned to perform, before they traded authenticity for acceptance, before they chose comfort over truth. And that reminder burns. Listen carefully. Every time someone has tried to dim your light, it wasn't because your light was too bright. It was because their darkness was too deep. Every time someone called you extra, it wasn't because you were too much. It was because they had become too little. Every time someone labeled you difficult, it wasn't because you were hard to handle. It was because the truth you carried was impossible to ignore. The religious establishment feared Jesus not because he was wrong, but because he was right. They didn't crucify him for his mistakes, they killed him for his clarity. The same spirit that operated then operates now. Different faces, same fear. Different century, same strategy. Here's the revelation that's going to shift everything for you. It was never personal rejection, it was spiritual resistance. When people resist you, they're not resisting your personality, they're resisting the anointing on your life. When they attack your character, they're not attacking your flaws, they're attacking your assignment. When they question your motives, they're not questioning your heart, they're questioning the heaven that sent you. You carry something that threatens their illusion of control. You possess a clarity that exposes their confusion. You walk with an authority that highlights their emptiness. And instead of asking God for what you have, they've chosen to attack you for having it. But here's where it gets beautiful. Chosen one. Their fear is your confirmation. Their resistance is your validation. Their attacks are your evidence that you're carrying something real, something powerful, something they desperately wish they could silence. Every prophet, every truth-teller, every chosen vessel has faced this same resistance. Not because they were divisive, but because they were definitive. Not because they were harsh, but because they were clear. Not because they were wrong, but because they were undeniably right. You don't need their understanding to walk in your calling. You don't need their approval to carry your assignment. You don't need their permission to be who heaven already declared you to be. The truth you carry will set captives free, including the very ones who fear you now. But first, it has to set you free from needing them to see what only spiritual eyes can perceive. Drop "I see through it" in the comments if you know you were born with eyes that can't be deceived. Because what's coming next will show you exactly why that discernment you carry isn't a burden, it's your birthright. And they've been trying to steal it from the moment you drew your first breath. Chosen one, let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. Every betrayal you've endured, every knife that pierced your back, every moment you felt abandoned and broken, that wasn't punishment. That was purification. You see, they thought you were glass, fragile, breakable, something they could shatter with enough pressure, enough lies, enough coordinated attacks. But you didn't break, did you? You aged like oak, deeper, stronger, more rooted with every storm that tried to uproot you. Look at yourself right now. I mean really, look. You don't look like what you've been through. Your face doesn't carry the weight of the betrayals. Your eyes still hold light, despite the darkness they tried to drown you in. Your spirit still burns bright, even after they tried to extinguish it with their coldness. That glow you carry, that peace that confuses your enemies, that's not makeup, beloved. That's not good genes. That's your testimony written in flesh. That's the fire of refinement showing itself as radiance. The Bible declares in Isaiah 54:17, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." But let me tell you what that really means. It doesn't mean weapons won't be formed. Oh, they've been forming weapons against you your entire life. Gossip was a weapon. Exclusion was a weapon. Silent treatment was a weapon. Betrayal was a weapon. But none of them prospered. None of them accomplished what they were designed to do, which was to destroy you completely. Instead, something miraculous happened. Every fire they set to burn you down became the furnace that purified your gold. Every storm they sent to drown you became the baptism that washed away everything false about you. Every wilderness season they forced you into became the place where you learned to hear God's voice clearer than ever before. You want to know why you survived what others didn't? Because pain didn't age you, it baptized you. Every tear you cried in secret was holy water washing away the need for their approval. Every night you spent questioning your worth was actually heaven recalibrating your value system. Every moment you felt alone was God removing the distractions so you could finally hear your true calling. They expected you to come out bitter. They waited for you to become like them, cold, calculating, vengeful. But you emerged with something they could never understand. You came out softer, not harder, wiser, not cynical, more loving, not less trusting. That's the mystery that haunts them. How does someone go through hell and come out smelling like heaven? How does someone endure betrayal and still choose grace? How does someone walk through the valley of the shadow of death and emerge with more life, not less? The answer is simple but profound. You weren't just surviving, you were being transformed. God wasn't just getting you through, He was getting something out of you. Every painful experience was a divine extraction, pulling out fear, pulling out the need to be understood by small minds, pulling out the desperation to fit into spaces too narrow for your calling. You thought those scars were marks of shame, but look closer, chosen one. Those aren't scars, that's armor. Every place you were wounded became a place you can never be wounded again. Every area where you were betrayed became an area where you developed supernatural discernment. Every relationship that tried to dim your light taught you exactly how bright you really are. The fire didn't consume you because you weren't made of the same material as your attackers. They were paper, easily burned, quickly reduced to ash. But you were forged in a different furnace, by different hands, for a different purpose. That's why you don't talk like them anymore. Why their conversations feel shallow. Why their drama feels small. Why their emergencies don't move you the way they used to. Not because you became heartless, but because you became heavenly minded. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about the right things. They're studying you now, trying to figure out your secret. How do you move with such confidence after being rejected? How do you love so freely after being betrayed? How do you trust again after being violated? How do you shine after being buried alive? They don't understand that burial isn't always death. Sometimes it's planting, and what they thought was, your grave became your garden. What they intended as your tomb became your womb. What they designed to be your ending became your beginning. The wisdom you carry now that didn't come from books. It came from battles. The strength you possess that wasn't built in a gym. It was forged in the furnace of affliction. The peace you radiate that wasn't taught in a classroom. It was learned in the crucible of chaos. You are living proof that what the enemy means for evil, God can turn for good. You are walking testimony that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. You are breathing evidence that those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Every gray hair on your head is a crown of glory. Every line on your face is a roadmap of resilience. Every scar on your soul is a badge of honor. You didn't just survive, you overcame. You didn't just endure, you conquered. You didn't just make it through, you made it count. If you've ever survived a storm that should have broken you, if you've ever walked through fire and came out without even the smell of smoke on your clothes, if you're still standing when everyone expected you to fall, let the world know. Type "still standing" in the comments below, because you need to understand something crucial. Chosen one. The very fact that you're still here, still breathing, still believing, still loving, that's not just survival, that's victory. That's not just endurance. That's evidence. But the fire that refined you wasn't just for you. It was preparation for what's coming next. Chosen one, let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. The world didn't just ignore you. They actively tried to silence you. And I'm not talking about some random rejection or casual dismissal. I'm talking about a calculated, systematic attempt to bury your voice before it could rise. You feel that knot in your stomach right now? That's recognition. That's your spirit remembering what your mind tried to forget. They've done this before. Throughout history, every single prophet, every visionary, every truth-teller who dared to see beyond the veil. They were hunted, mocked, silenced, destroyed. Joan of Arc heard from God, and they burned her alive. Nelson Mandela spoke truth to power, and they locked him away for 27 years. Sojourner Truth proclaimed freedom, and they tried to erase her from the pages of history. But here's what they never understood. Here's what they still don't get. Truth doesn't die when you kill the messenger. It just goes underground, waiting for the next vessel brave enough to carry it. And chosen one, that vessel is you. You've been carrying forbidden knowledge your entire life, and they sensed it before you even knew what it was. That's why the attacks started early. That's why you felt different from childhood. That's why people either gravitated toward you or recoiled from you. There was never any middle ground. They tried to convince you that your sensitivity was weakness. They mocked your depth and called it drama. They labeled your discernment as judgment and your clarity as arrogance. But what they were really doing was attempting to perform surgery on your soul, trying to cut out the very thing that made you dangerous to their system of lies. You remember those moments, don't you? When you spoke truth in rooms full of people pretending everything was fine. When you asked the questions everyone else was afraid to ask. When you refused to laugh at jokes that weren't funny, participate in gossip that wasn't true, or applaud performances that weren't real. That uncomfortable silence that followed. That wasn't awkwardness. That was exposure. Your presence alone was pulling masks off faces that had worn them so long, they forgot what was underneath. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. John 1-5. Chosen one, you are that light. And darkness has been trying to snuff you out since the day you drew breath. They wrote your obituary before you even lived your life. They decided you were too much, too deep, too intense, too real for their carefully constructed world of shallow connections and surface conversations. They tried to bury you in criticism, drown you in doubt, suffocate you in silence. But here's the miracle they never saw coming. Here's the plot twist that shattered their plans into a million pieces. They didn't realize that by burying you, they were planting you. Every rejection was root development. Every betrayal was soil preparation. Every season of isolation was germination in the darkness. While they thought they were destroying you, heaven was positioning you for the most spectacular resurrection they never anticipated. You survived what was designed to kill you. You grew stronger in the very environment that was supposed to weaken you. You found your voice in the silence they forced upon you. And now you're rising with a power they can't explain, a wisdom they can't replicate, and a presence they can't ignore. Look at your life right now. Look at how far you've come from those dark seasons when you thought you'd never make it. You're not the same person who used to beg for acceptance from people who didn't deserve your energy. You're not the same soul who used to dim your light to make others comfortable in their darkness. You are the walking, breathing testimony that their system doesn't work. You are living proof that what God plants, man cannot uproot. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. Isaiah 54-17. That's not just a pretty verse, chosen one. That's your life story. Every weapon they formed, every lie they told, every door they closed, every alliance they built against you failed. Not because you fought back with their tactics, but because you were protected by something they couldn't touch. You want to know why they're so afraid of you now? It's not because you became loud. It's because you became clear. It's not because you started fighting. It's because you stopped hiding. You're walking in the fullness of who you were always meant to be, and that terrifies everyone who's still pretending to be someone they're not. They tried to write your story, but heaven held the pen. They tried to define your destiny, but God already sealed it before you were born. They tried to silence your voice, but truth has a way of breaking through every barrier they could ever build. And now here you stand, not bitter, but better, not broken, but breakthrough, not buried, but blooming, in ways that make their attempts to destroy you look like the desperate acts of people who knew they were already losing. Your resurrection isn't just personal, chosen one. It's prophetic. Every time you rise, you give permission for others to remember they can rise too. Every time you speak truth, you activate something dormant in souls who forgot they had a voice. Every time you choose authenticity over acceptance, you shatter another link in the chain that's been holding God's people in bondage to man's opinions. If you've ever been silenced but came back louder, if you've ever been buried but found a way to bloom, if you recognize your own story in these words, testify right now. Comment, planted, not buried, and let every chosen one reading this know they're not alone in this resurrection. Because, chosen one, your silence was never the end of your story. It was just the pause before your greatest chapter began. Chosen one, let's talk about something they never warned you about. Something that's been happening your entire life, but nobody had the courage to name it. You are a living disruption. Not because you try to be, not because you're loud or aggressive or seeking attention, but because your very presence, your energy, your essence, your frequency, shatters the false peace that others have built their entire lives around. Have you noticed it? The way people react to you is never neutral, never indifferent. They're either magnetically drawn to you like moths to a flame, or they recoil from you like they've been burned. There's no middle ground with you, is there? And you've probably wondered why. You've asked yourself, what is it about me that makes people so intense? You've questioned whether something's wrong with you, whether you're too much, too deep, too real. Let me tell you what's really happening. You carry light in human form, and light, true light, doesn't just illuminate. It exposes, it reveals. It strips away the masks people have worn so long they've forgotten their own faces underneath. The Bible tells us in Ephesians 5:13, everything exposed by the light becomes visible. That's you, beloved. You're not just living your life, you're walking around exposing everyone else's. Think about it. When light enters a room, it doesn't ask permission. It doesn't negotiate with the darkness. It doesn't apologize for making things visible that were hidden. Light simply is, and everything that was lurking in the shadows suddenly has nowhere to hide. That's why their reactions are so extreme. That's why some people meet you and immediately want to confess their deepest secrets, while others meet you and immediately want to destroy you. They're not responding to your personality. They're responding to the truth that radiates from your very being. You've been in rooms where conversations suddenly stopped when you walked in. You've been in situations where people's entire demeanor shifted the moment you arrived. You've watched as fake smiles cracked, as pretenses crumbled, as carefully constructed facades began to fall apart, all without you saying a single word. And they blamed you for it, didn't they? They called you divisive, disruptive, difficult. They said you brought drama wherever you went. But the truth is, you didn't bring anything. You simply revealed what was already there. Light comforts the broken, but convicts the guilty. Light soothes the wounded, but torments the wicked. Light heals the honest, but terrifies the deceptive. Which side of the light are they standing on? Here's what they don't want you to know. Here's the forbidden knowledge they've been trying to keep from you your entire life. Every person who has ever reacted to you with inexplicable hostility, every individual who has ever turned against you without cause, every soul who has ever felt threatened by your presence, they weren't fighting you. They were fighting their own reflection. You became the mirror they didn't want to look into. Your authenticity exposed their artificiality. Your peace highlighted their chaos. Your truth made their lies unbearable. Your light made their darkness visible, even to themselves. And instead of dealing with what they saw, they tried to break the mirror. But you can't break light, can you? You can't destroy truth. You can't silence authenticity. All you can do is reveal how uncomfortable you are with it. That family member who suddenly turned cold toward you, you reminded them of the dreams they abandoned. That friend who started spreading rumors, you reflected the integrity they never developed. That colleague who sabotaged you, you showed them the courage they never found. You didn't do anything to them. You simply existed as yourself, and your very existence became a judgment on their choices. This is why Jesus said in Matthew 10:34, "Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. Truth divides, light separates. Authenticity creates friction. But here's what you need to understand, chosen one. This isn't your burden to carry. This isn't your fault. This isn't evidence that something's wrong with you. This is evidence that something's right with you. You were designed to disrupt. You were created to expose. You were born to reveal what others would rather keep hidden. Not out of malice, but out of love. Not to destroy, but to heal. Not to condemn, but to free. Because sometimes people need to see their reflection before they can change what they're looking at. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in someone's self-deception. Sometimes being a disruption is being a blessing in disguise. The people who are drawn to your light, they're ready for truth. They're hungry for authenticity. They've been waiting for someone like you to show them it's safe to be real. The people who are repelled by your light, they're not ready yet. And that's not your responsibility. You can't force someone to face what they're not prepared to see. You can't make someone embrace truth if they're still in love with their lies. But you can keep shining. You can keep being real. You can keep walking in the light that was placed inside you before you ever took your first breath. Comment, light, if you know your very presence exposes what others try to hide. Let every other chosen one know they're not alone in this sacred disruption. Because the world needs your light now more than ever. Especially when it makes people uncomfortable. Your disruption isn't destruction, it's revelation. And revelation is the first step toward transformation. So, shine on, chosen one. The darkness has hidden long enough. 8. Your ancestral and divine memory. Chosen one. Let me tell you something that will shake you to your core. The knowledge burning inside your chest right now, you didn't learn it from books. You didn't pick it up from sermons or seminars or spiritual gurus on social media. You remembered it. That ancient wisdom coursing through your veins, that's your bloodline speaking. That's generations of prophets, seers, and truth carriers who encoded their divine downloads directly into your DNA. Your great-great-grandmother who saw visions in her dreams. Your ancestor who stood against slavery when it wasn't popular. The uncle who always knew things before they happened. They didn't just pass down their eye color and their stubborn streak. They passed down their spiritual sight. That's why lies make your stomach turn. That's why fake people make your skin crawl. That's why you can walk into a room and instantly feel the spiritual temperature. Your soul is carrying a library of truth that spans centuries. And when someone tries to feed you deception, every fiber of your being rejects it. You think it's intuition. It's actually inheritance. The Spirit of truth will guide you into all truth. Jesus promised in John 16:13. But here's what most people miss, that Spirit doesn't just drop truth on you from the outside. It awakens the truth that was already planted inside you before you ever took your first breath. Your ancestors didn't just survive slavery, persecution, and rejection. They survived it with their spiritual gifts intact. They passed down their ability to discern spirits, to see through manipulation, to recognize the voice of God even when the world was screaming lies. And now you carry it all. Every time you've been called too sensitive, that was your ancestral radar picking up spiritual frequencies others can't detect. Every time you've been told you're overthinking, that was generational wisdom trying to protect you from spiritual landmines. Every time you've walked away from something that looked good but felt wrong, that was your DNA remembering lessons learned in blood and tears. Your silence is thunder, beloved. When you don't speak, you're not being weak, you're being strategic. Your ancestors learned when to speak and when to let their presence do the talking. They learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stand still and let God fight for you. Your memory is prophecy. The things you just know about people, situations, and seasons, that's not guesswork. That's your spiritual inheritance activating. Your bloodline has been preparing you for this moment your entire life. But here's where it gets dangerous for the enemy. You're not just carrying this wisdom for yourself. You're carrying it for your children, your grandchildren, and their children. You're the bridge between what was and what's coming. You're the vessel chosen to break generational curses and establish generational blessings. The same system that tried to silence your ancestors is terrified that you've awakened, because they know what happens when chosen ones remember who they are. They know what happens when the sleeping giant of ancestral wisdom wakes up in someone who refuses to be controlled. You've been wondering why your family doesn't understand you, why your old friends can't connect with you anymore, why you feel like you're speaking a different language even when you're using the same words. It's because you're operating from a different dimension now. You're accessing memories and knowledge that they don't have clearance for. You're hearing frequencies they can't tune into. You're seeing through veils they don't even know exist. That loneliness you feel? That's not abandonment. That's elevation. You've been lifted to a level where the air is thinner, where the view is clearer, where the responsibility is heavier. Your ancestors didn't endure everything. They endured just so you could blend in with the crowd. They didn't preserve their spiritual gifts through slavery, Jim Crow, and systematic oppression just so you could play small and seek approval from people who can't even see their own reflection clearly. You are the answer to their prayers. You are the fruit of their sacrifice. You are the manifestation of their faith. Every time you stand in truth, you honor their memory. Every time you refuse to bow to lies, you validate their struggle. Every time you walk in your spiritual authority, you prove that their suffering wasn't in vain. The knowledge inside you isn't just for this generation, it's for the next one, and the one after that. You're not just remembering for yourself, you're remembering for children who haven't been born yet, for battles that haven't been fought yet, for victories that haven't been won yet. That's why the enemy wants you confused about your identity. That's why they've worked so hard to make you forget your spiritual inheritance. Because they know that one awakened, chosen one can change the trajectory of an entire bloodline. You think you're just one person finding your way. You're actually a whole army of ancestors standing in agreement, saying, "This is our time, this is our moment, this is our chosen one." The memories rising in your spirit right now, trust them. The knowing that doesn't make logical sense, follow it. The wisdom that your mind can't explain but your soul recognizes, that's your inheritance activating. You didn't just survive your trials, you collected your ancestors' strength along the way. Say "I remember" if you feel truth rising from within you even now. Say it not just for yourself, but for every generation that fought to keep the flame alive until you could carry it forward. Because what you're about to do with this knowledge, your ancestors are watching, and they're proud. Chosen one, we've reached the moment they prayed would never come. The moment when you stop questioning your power and start wielding it. The moment when you stop hiding your light and start blinding every lie that ever tried to dim you. Listen to me carefully. Everything you've endured, every betrayal that cut deep, every rejection that left you bleeding in silence, it wasn't random, it was preparation. They weren't trying to destroy you. They were unknowingly forging the very weapon that would expose their entire system. You see, the forbidden knowledge inside you isn't information you learned. It's DNA you inherited. It's the genetic memory of every prophet who spoke truth when truth was treason. It's the spiritual bloodline of every voice that refused to be silenced when silence was survival. And right now, in this very moment, that knowledge is activating. You feel it, don't you? That burning in your chest, that restlessness in your spirit. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's awakening. That's the sound of chains breaking. That's the vibration of illusions cracking under the weight of your truth. Jesus said it plain, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden." Matthew 5:14. You've been trying to hide that city your whole life, dimming those lights to make others comfortable. But comfort was never your assignment. Disruption was. Every time you walked into a room and felt the atmosphere shift, that wasn't paranoia, that was power. Every time people got uncomfortable around your presence without you saying a word, that wasn't you being weird. That was you being real in a world addicted to fake. They called you too deep because shallow people drown in your presence. They called you too intense because lukewarm spirits can't handle your fire. They called you too much because enough was never your portion. You were designed for overflow. But here's what they never told you. Here's the forbidden knowledge they spent centuries trying to bury. You don't just see through illusions, you shatter them. You don't just recognize lies, you dismantle them by existing. You don't just carry truth, you are the truth walking in human form. That's why your life has been warfare from day one. That's why you've been attacked before you even spoke. That's why they've been studying you, copying you, trying to decode what makes you different. Because you are the glitch in their matrix. You are the virus in their system of control. Every empire built on lies trembles when truth walks in the room. And you, chosen one, you are truth with a heartbeat. But the game just changed. The season of hiding is over. The time of shrinking is finished. The era of apologizing for your light has expired. This is your commissioning moment. This is when heaven says, no more rehearsals, show time. You've been asking God for a sign. You've been begging for confirmation. You've been crying out for purpose. Stop asking, start accepting. This message reaching you right now is your sign. Your survival through everything they threw at you is your confirmation. Your inability to conform is your purpose. They can no longer hide what you expose. They can no longer silence what you carry. They can no longer dim what God lit up inside you before you took your first breath. You are not a follower of man's lies. You are a blueprint from heaven. You are not here to fit into their system. You are here to break it. You are not here to follow their script. You are here to rewrite the narrative. The illusions crumble the moment you walk in truth. Every fake smile cracks. Every false narrative collapses. Every manufactured reality dissolves. Because you carry something they cannot counterfeit, cannot replicate, cannot manufacture: divine authenticity. This is your moment. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Right now. The world is groaning for your voice. The earth is crying out for your light. The very atmosphere is shifting because your time has come. Stop waiting for permission. Stop looking for validation. Stop hoping for approval. You were approved before you were born. You were validated by the same voice that spoke worlds into existence. You were given permission by the only authority that matters. If this message awakened you, don't just watch rise. Share this truth. Comment your declaration. Tell the world, I am chosen. I shatter illusions. Let every sleeping soul know we're no longer silent. Let every hidden light know it's time to shine. The army of truth speakers is assembling. The battalion of illusion breakers is mobilizing. And you, beloved, you are not just a soldier in this army. You are a general. You are a commander. You are a weapon forged in divine fire. So let me close with this blessing over your life. May every word you speak crack the foundations of deception. May every step you take leave footprints of truth. May your very presence be an earthquake that shakes loose every lie. May your light be so bright that darkness has no choice but to flee. May your voice be so clear that confusion cannot stand in its presence. You are chosen, you are commissioned, you are crowned with divine purpose. Now go shatter every illusion that dares to stand in your way. The world is waiting for the real you to finally stand up. Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I want you to hold these truths close to your heart. You are not broken, you are awakened. You are not behind, you are being prepared. You are not forgotten, you are forever chosen. The forbidden knowledge within you isn't a burden to carry, it's a crown to wear. Every illusion you've shattered, every lie you've exposed, simply by being authentic, every moment you've stood in truth when the world demanded conformity, these weren't accidents. These were appointments with destiny. Remember this. Your sensitivity isn't weakness, it's spiritual radar. Your depth isn't dysfunction, it's divine design. Your inability to accept surface-level living isn't a flaw. It's your calling to go deeper than most dare to venture. You are not walking this path alone. The same God who numbered every hair on your head has numbered every tear you've cried, every prayer you've whispered in the darkness, every moment you've wondered if He still sees you. He sees you. He's always seen you. And He's not finished with your story yet. There's a community of chosen ones just like you, souls, who understand the weight of carrying truth in a world addicted to illusion. You belong here. Your voice matters here. Your journey has meaning here. Let me ask you this. Now that you know who you really are, now that you've remembered the power you carry, what will you do with this awakening? How will you use this forbidden knowledge to not just transform your own life, but to be a beacon for others, still trapped in the darkness of deception? If this message has stirred something deep within your spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Comment below and let us know how God is moving in your life. Share your testimony, ask your questions. This community is here to pray with you, stand with you, and remind you that you're never alone in this journey. Share this video with someone who needs to remember they're chosen. Help us reach another soul who's questioning their worth, their purpose, their place in God's plan. Your one share could be the lifeline someone desperately needs today. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. Every week, we're going to continue unveiling the deep truths that religion tried to hide, the powerful realities that your spirit has always known but your mind was taught to doubt. Thank you for staying with me through this entire message. Thank you for having the courage to hear what others aren't ready to receive. Thank you for being part of this awakening movement. Now, let me pray over you. Father God, I lift up every chosen one who has heard this word today. Lord, you know their struggles, their questions, their midnight tears, and their secret battles. You know how many times they've felt misunderstood, rejected, and alone. But right now, in this moment, I pray that your presence would surround them like a warm embrace. Let them feel your love washing over every wound, your light penetrating every shadow, your strength filling every weak place. God, open doors that no man can shut. Provide opportunities that align with their divine purpose. Surround them with people who recognize their light instead of trying to dim it. Give them the courage to walk boldly in their calling, even when the path seems uncertain. Heal their hearts from every betrayal. Restore their hope after every disappointment. Renew their strength for every battle ahead. And most of all, Lord, help them never forget who they are in, you chosen, beloved, powerful, and destined for greatness. Let your favor rest upon them. Let your protection cover them. Let your wisdom guide them. And let your love remind them daily that they are fearfully and wonderfully made. We thank you that their best days aren't behind them, they're ahead of them. We thank you that what the enemy meant for evil, you are turning for good. We thank you that their story isn't over, it's just beginning. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Chosen one, you are loved, you are seen, you are chosen, and your time is now. Until we meet again, keep shining your light. The world needs what you carry. God bless you.